Hello, Federal viewers. Welcome to this exclusive discussion. Japan has marked a historic moment today with the election of Sanae Takaichi, the first female prime minister of the country, a huge milestone for its political landscape. Joining us today to discuss more on what this means for Japan's politics and its direction is our consulting editor, K.S. Dakshina Murthy, who closely tracks international developments. So, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you.
So let me begin with a very basic question. Sanae Takaichi is seen as the Iron Lady of Japan. She takes after Margaret Thatcher, who is the former UK Prime Minister. She was once a heavy metal drummer, a scuba driver, and now she's ventured into politics. A lot of people, the critics around the world, say it's a huge leap for women in Japan, especially at a time when the gender equality rate there is getting worse. So, with this all in account, what does this actually signify? What does this election actually signify?
Whether Sanae Takaichi will eventually turn out to be the Iron Lady or not, we should see. I mean, her
Yeah,
inspiration is Margaret Thatcher.
yeah,
She herself has expressed this, but whether she will be like her, is to be seen. I mean, so that's what her aim is. That's one thing.
right,
Secondly, yeah, I mean, that Japan has had to wait so many years for a female prime minister also indicates the state of the society in Japan. But eventually, you have Sanae Takaichi, being elected as the prime minister. But what it basically shows is that it really doesn't mean that there's any great change in the nature of society because that's far deeper. So but then still, at least as far as symbolisms go, Takaichi's election is, is a definitely something very significant. But there's an irony in this. The irony in this is that Takaichi, though she herself, she's a female, her policies are not
right,
very pro-woman in some ways. I mean, I
right,
wouldn't say it entirely. For instance, if you take, there is a kind of a move in Japan about surnames, like when
right,
a woman gets married, whether the surname has to be changed, to that of the husband. So this controversy is there, and Takachi has taken the position that women should change the surname to that of the male. So that's a very clear thing that she may be a woman, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she will do something pro-woman or because she's also considered a conservative within the Liberal
right,
Democratic Party. So, taking into account all this, there will be some changes. Of course, she has promised better health care for women. She's also promised to expand the nature of treatment that women will get in hospitals. So it's a kind of a mixed bag, but fundamentally, yes, she is conservative, and her inspiration of Thatcher should give that a clear indication. So let's see. I mean, so this is how it she's starting with, and it's a new experiment for Japan itself since she's the first female. So in that sense, yes, it'll be we should watch her closely.
right. I want to look at LDP's run, a dominant political party in Japan post World War II. But if you look at the last decade, there's been 10 new prime ministers. In the country itself. So, and even Takaichi now, if I'm not wrong, is the fourth prime minister in the last 5 years. So, what does this mean? Is LDP losing out on Japanese politics? Is that true? And why is it happening like that?
So typically, when any government, for instance, the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party in Japan, has ruled for most of the periods in the last 7 decades. So what typically happens is that as a ruling formation, you tend to accumulate anti-incumbency, and no government can always be right. There will be mistakes that are committed, and what this does is over a period of time it accumulates, and there is a kind of a resentment that builds up against any existing formation, especially if it's like this long. So this is what has happened in the case of the LDP. The LDPs, of course, the biggest shock was in the 80s when for three decades, Japan really floundered, as far as its economy was concerned, from a point in the early 80s, where it was seen as a huge challenger to the US, and the US saw Japan as a big threat. it completely lost its way in many ways, and it's now slowly again attempting to recover its lost ground. But politically, what has happened is this has the LDP has paid a price for this, with its support base being chipped away. And also, one more thing is that around the world there is a rise of far right parties. The conservatives are on the rise, and Japan is no exception. Takaichi herself is a conservative within the Liberal Democratic Party, but the party is in coalition with the Nippon Ishin, or the Japanese Innovation Party, which is a right wing, some right wing conservative party. So what it basically means is that there is also a general shift towards the right, and the Liberal Democratic Party couldn't, hold on to its support base for all these very reasons. Because,
Right.
yeah, as you know, Japan is undergoing a very, it's a kind of there is a deflation that is on in
Correct.
Japan. And the this government, Takaichi has now promising that there'll be a lot of government spending, there'll be tax cuts, etc., etc. So
Right.
all these are they go by the conservative playbook. So that's how you see the LDP losing power, and this Takaichi is coming is in a sense an attempt to bring back those voters who have gone away from the LDP. So that is also
Correct.
another important thing that has happened here.
Right. In Takaichi's attempt to gain the voters back, what should be her focus on the policies? You touched a bit about women healthcare. You touched a bit about what she has to do for the economy. There is a slug in the economy as well. So, what should be the focus of her policies?
See, right now, Japan is facing unemployment. There is an issue
Correct.
about people are, waking up to this increasing inflow of migrants into the country, and so there is a kind of a social kind of I wouldn't call it a turmoil, but a kind of a unrest, or an
Right.
unsettling feeling amongst the Japanese. So what has happened is that it is so Takaichi faces a very formidable challenge, because she not only needs to see, if you take the demographic example, for instance, you may be, the Japanese may be resenting the arrival of migrants into Japan. It's effectively the whole thing comes to only about 3% of the total population, which is not too much.
Correct.
But the visibility has gone up. So people generally get the feeling that there are more migrants. But the funny part is that Japan is also suffering from this. It's an aging population. The birth rates have fallen quite dramatically in Japan. So there is a real need for labor. So where would they get these people from? I mean, where would they get the labor force from? So that is also something that needs to be looked at. And then, so you have somebody like Takaichi, who thinks that a nationalistic position, something like Atma Nirbharta, or whatever you call it, self-reliance, is something
Right.
that she's also going to try. And whether it will succeed or not is something really up in the air, because Japan's issues have been prolonged for many decades. It's slowly now improving. It's recovered recently in the last 1 year by about, I think, its GDP went up by 1.1% or so. So it's slowly recovering, but Takaichi has to ensure that this doesn't fall again, and it actually increases in its, the rate of growth, goes up. So it's a tough task for
Yeah.
Takaichi.
So it's going to be a very challenging time for her coming in, and she needs to have a list of targeted policies to counter all these hurdles. So, talking at a global level, will there be any impact of the Kaichi for Japan's relations with other nations? Because we've been hearing that she's going to meet with Trump in the coming week. Modi has sent her congratulatory messages, and especially with India as well. What kind of impact will it have with Japan's relation with other countries?
See, Japan is also a country that is, that is fearful of the tariffs
Trump.
being imposed by Trump. It's also an affected party.
Right.
There was, even before Trump had imposed the tariff, there was already a big tariff on its automobile exports to
Correct.
the US. So there was already these kind of issues. So, and also Takaichi belongs to that section of politicians who, as I said before, is a nationalist. So there is already geopolitical tensions in East Asia between, say, China and Japan. there is a kind of a apprehension that this could worsen. She's also trying to have some kind of a tie up with Taiwan, which will definitely be a red rag for China. As far as India is concerned, India will not have that much of a, there won't be that much of a
Okay.
difference, because Japan continues to look at spending, and it will continue to have its the ties with India, and in many ways, the government of Prime Minister Modi and Takaichi are in many ways similar in terms of self-reliant, wanting to be self-reliant, and looking inwards and expanding its economy and generating
Right.
more revenue. So, I mean, in that sense, I think they kind of gel well. I don't foresee any big issues as such between India and Japan.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been a very insightful conversation. And viewers, for more such analysis, keep watching The Federal.